Let's see if that works. If I concentrate more in the morning, I follow through in the afternoon.
That's definitely a big part. And then you have to resolve to do it. But what's going to make you keep the resolve? That's the point. What's going to make when you make that resolution? What's going to make that? So you'll do it today, and tomorrow, and the next day. But how about in 4 days from now? What's going to make you keep the resolve? The davening in the morning is going to give you your mind the strength that when the time comes to do it, you'll do it. I mean, obviously, we're not discussing the practical tips, setting an alarm on your phone or whatever it may be. But good. Okay. So that's Perek Yud Beis. Perek Yud Beis explains what the Beinoni is and why by the Beinoni, the Nefesh Elokis enjoys an advantage over the Nefesh Bahamis, to the point that even though the Nefesh Bahamis remains uncompromised and remains at full force, still the Nefesh Elokis is the only one that has the actual control over the Machshava Dibra Maisa. That's Perek Yud Beis. Perek Yud Gimel was a long Perek. Oh, before we get to Perek Yud Gimel, one more point from Perek Yud Beis. When we say that the Nefesh Elokis controls the thought, speech, and action, it doesn't mean that the Beinoni doesn't have bad thoughts that enter his or her mind. For sure does. Big why? Because the Nefesh Bahamis, remember, has not been compromised in any which way. It's at full force. So what is the Nefesh Bahamis busy doing? A whole day is busy throwing stones and catapults and thoughts into the person's mind and trying to get the person to fall for them, to dwell on these thoughts. But as soon as the Nefesh Elokis intercepts one of these thoughts and realizes, this thought isn't the way it's supposed to be, so it immediately ejects the thought from the mind, and therefore and keeps the mind thinking the way it's supposed to be thinking. Now, that's Perek Yud Beis. Perek Yud Gimel, the Alter Rebbe says that he goes through several different levels of Beinoni. There can be a very high level of Beinoni, but ultimately, the person who's a struggler, which is what a Beinoni is, that's all of us to a certain extent. We have to realize that we're strugglers. We have to realize that even when we're winning the war in Machshava Dibra Maisa, it doesn't mean that we've put the Nefesh Bahamis out of commission. It doesn't mean that we're safe. But it requires constant effort and constant exertion to make sure that I win the battle today, and I'm going to win the battle tomorrow, I'm going to win the battle next time. All too often we fall prey to this mistake that we're victorious in Machshava Dibra Maisa in a certain area for a certain amount of time, and we think we have this one beaten. Example, okay, person makes a chlot and decides that he's waking up every day for davening with a minyan. That goes by half a week, and 1 week, and 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and then he says to himself, you know what? I've beaten the Nefesh Bahamis in this area. What's the next thing that happens? We all know. What's the next thing that happens? The next day he sleeps in, right? Because he's too complacent. Because people can delude themselves in thinking that because my Machshava Dibra Maisa are the way they're supposed to be, so that means that I've beaten the Nefesh Bahamis. Don't think so, says Alter Rebbe. You have to know who you are. You're a struggler. Your Nefesh Bahamis is there. It might be sleeping. It might be right now that you've overpowered it temporarily, but you have to always keep on working hard. Constantly and realize, right, as it says in Pirkei Avos, right? Don't trust yourself. Understand that Nefesh Bahamis is there. Unless you're at tzaddik, which most of us aren't on that level. Unless you're at tzaddik, understand who you are. That's very, very important, and never to delude yourself into thinking that you're anything other than that. That's the main point of Perek Yud Gimel. Perek Yud Daled. We finish now with what is the tzaddik, what is the rasha, and what is the beinoni. We know what each one of these things are. Now, in Perek Tes we had, here's what the battle is, and then depending on how well we're doing in the battle, either a tzaddik or you're a rasha or you're a beinoni. What should I strive to be? I mean, certainly not a rasha. So what should I strive to be? Says the Alter Rebbe in the first words in Perek Yud Daled, page 38. V'hine, says the Alter Rebbe, midas ha-beinini midas kol adam. The way of the beinini is the way for every single person. V'achareha kol adam yimshech. Every single person should strive to be a beinini. And why is that? And the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us over here, we just discussed the tzaddik, we discussed the rasha, we discussed the beinini. Your goal should be to be a beinini. And why is that? Because you have no excuse not to be a beinini. What is a beinini? A beinini is someone who struggles. A beinini is someone who the temptations and the desires and the ego and the selfishness and the anger management issues and all the other, the pettiness and the jealousy and all those other character flaws that we have are there full force. But the beinini says, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to indulge the desires and the temptations. And that every single one of us can do. Every single one of us has the power, as Nancy Reagan said, just say no. The Shabbat says yes, and you say no. And there's no excuse for that. You're a human being, you're a mensch, as mentioned earlier. And Moya Shat Alev, the mind controls the heart. And therefore, this is what every single person can and should aspire to be a struggler who wins. You know, and people who suffer from addictions. No, so someone who's alcoholic knows he's never going to be a non-alcoholic. Right? Once alcoholic, always alcoholic. What are you striving to? You're striving
less alcohol.
You're striving not to drink alcohol.
The Gemara says
very simple. Right? We're all that way. We're all addicts. That's the truth. Every single day. It's hard. What is the definition of an addict? An addict is someone who does things that are unreasonable, that he knows that are harmful, and yet he can't stop himself. Does that describe you? Does that describe you? I mean, it definitely describes me. It describes all of us, right? There is a difference. Someone who's a full-blown addict is someone who those things that he or she can't control are destroying his life in a real way, destroying family, destroying relationships, whatever. And most of us, we're managing in life with our issues. But in essence, and we have to realize we'll always be addicts. In other words, the impulse and the urge to do those things that are completely unreasonable and that are completely self-harming and make no sense, but we'll always have those desires.
Is it possible that it could happen for a lifetime, but not for eternity? Or it can't happen. No illness is for eternity. The Gemara says that, but an illness or something like that could be for a lifetime. You can have those disorders for. And how come so many illnesses, so many disorders are for a lifetime? They're not transitory or anything. There's so many illnesses, that once you have it for a lifetime.
You're asking about physical illnesses?
Or mental, or either one, physical or mental, but just that's the lifetime. The illness for eternity.
I'm not. Last I checked, I don't have nevuah. Hashem hasn't let me know. We're in Golgos. There are a lot of questions, but I could tell you that we all have an illness called the Yetzer Hara, the Nefesh Bahamas, and that's a lifelong illness. I'm not sure what the difference is between a lifelong and eternity. To me, that's the same thing, and it's not going away, and that's fine. That's fine. It's not our job to get rid of the Nefesh Bahamas. Our job is to keep it under control and not allow it to express itself in machshava d'ibra ma'aseh. We'll always be alcoholics. We'll always want the alcohol or whatever else is our drug of choice. But the beinini is someone who recognizes this struggle, but because of Moyach Sha'at Alev, the mind controls the heart. We have the ability not to do that which the heart says. Now, a tzaddik is something else. A tzaddik is someone who goes well past behavior. The tzaddik is someone who's actually delivered a knockout punch to the Nefesh Bahamas. The tzaddik is completely in control of his or her heart, that doesn't have any any bad desires, doesn't have any temptations, doesn't have any, the ego, the anger, the pettiness, all these things we discussed, the tzaddik doesn't have. And that's not within our control. 99% of people don't have the ability to do that. But 100% of people have the ability to control themselves, to win the battle against the nefesh habahamis so that it doesn't express itself in machshava dibur ma'isa. And therefore, that is what a yid strives for. A yid strives for is to be a beinoni. The Alter Rebbe says that being a tzaddik, the Alter Rebbe says, is not really part of this world. He says the love that a tzaddik experiences for Hashem, this incredibly passionate, overpowering love. When I say overpowering, because it completely overpowers the nefesh habahamis. The Alter Rebbe says it's me'ein olam haba. Me'ein olam haba. What do you think we have in Gan Eden? What is Gan Eden? We sit and we bask in Hashem's radiance and in our relationship with Him and our love for Him. There are certain people who are very lucky and they get to experience Gan Eden in this world, and that's tzaddikim.
How is that?
What is Gan Eden? We think that we'd be in Gan Eden if we'd have $1 billion, we'd live in Gan Eden. No, that would make Gehenna much worse. Gehenna down here, right? Gan Eden.
They have trouble with people.
Gan Eden is Avos Hashem. Now, look on page Chaf. Alter Rebbe says.
Which one? Which one?
Right in the top.
What's that?
He says, Ava b'tanugim, the Ava, the pleasurable Ava which the tzaddik experiences, l's'aneg al Hashem. Take pleasure in Hashem is me'ein al ma'aba. V'alzeh amru Razal, regarding this, Chazal said, Elam chatire b'chayecha, there is a possibility that a person has olam haba in this world. Ve'ein kol adam zoich l'zeh, not everyone is zoich to this. Kizeu ke'ein kibul schar. That's like receiving the reward, because that's the reward we see for avodah. A tzaddik is someone who receives his reward in this world. We don't often think of it that way. We think of a tzaddik as a holy person, a special person. We don't realize how lucky the tzaddik is. The tzaddik living in this world is experiencing Olam Haba, that kind of relationship and connection with Hashem. But that's something which is
How do you develop that as opposed to other people?
So that's something which is certain people are created. There are certain very few people created with the potential to become a tzaddik.
Not everybody.
No, most people are not born with that potential. Most people are not born with that potential. And it's a matana from Hashem. It's a gift. It's not something that most people can achieve. It's a gift. It's like being a kohen. You can't earn being a kohen, right? The same thing with being a tzaddik. You can't earn being a tzaddik. It's possible for a person to work very hard their entire life, and he's not a tzaddik. Meaning what? He will Torah mitzvahs 24/7. Will win every single battle. Will be a beinoni. But he has not delivered that knockout punch to the nefesh habahamis in any which way. And that's most people. So every single person has to strive to be a beinoni. And that's our avodah.
You said that Shabbat is me'ein olam haba.
Sorry?
Shabbat is me'ein olam haba.
There you go, exactly.
That's why one day a week.
And we've spoken about this many times. We put everything in black and white. There's the tzaddik, there's the rasha, there's the beinoni. There's the part of us that's the tzaddik, there's the part of us that's the rasha, there's the part of us that's the beinoni, right? We've spoken about this in the past. And there's no question about it, that Shabbos is a tzaddik time. In other words, all of us are on a higher level. The struggles are less on Shabbos. We know that there are two names that Klal Yisrael have. There's Yaakov and there's Yisrael. And Yisrael, in general, is referred to as the Ben. B'ni b'choyri Yisrael. Yisrael is the Ben of Hashem. Like a son that has love for the father and loyal to the father. And Yaakov is the Eved. Right? We talk about always Yaakov Avdi. Yaakov is the Eved. The Eved is the person who struggles, not the son, the one who struggles. And Shabbos, we're on the Madriga of Yisrael. We're talking a higher level, Me'ein olam haba. And when it comes to Matzah Shabbos, we have to go back into the work week. And now we're suddenly on the level of Yaakov, so that's why we have to say Matzah Shabbos, Al Tira Avdi Yaakov. I don't know by the Sfardim, but by Ashkenazim, it's a piyut, right? And Al Tira Avdi Yaakov, we say the work week is coming and the struggles are coming. The Yaakov, what does the word Yaakov mean? Ekev, which the Yaakov is struggling with Esav, right? Both Yaakov and Yisrael refer to the struggle with Esav. But Yaakov is that Yaakov is holding on to the ankle and trying to stop him from going on first. And Yisrael is after Yaakov beat the angel, the Malach of Esav, so then we say, Kisarisa, you won the battle. That's when you Yisrael. So Shabbos from the Madriga of Yisrael, we're talking about, somewhat like Tzaddikim on Shabbos. And during the week we fall back to the level of Yaakov. We have to struggle.
Why we don't have 6 day Shabbos and 1 day?
Because for the same reason why we don't have 99% Tzaddikim and 1% the Beinanim. In other words, our avodah is the struggle. And that's why most people can't become tzaddikim. Most of the days are work day, because that's the avodah. Why is that the avodah? Perich al Zayin. We'll get to that. No, that's, we already learned it, but we'll review it soon. But that ultimately, the avodah of the average Yid is the struggle, and we can't let that struggle get us down. We have to know who we are and realize that we're not tzaddikim, and that's fine. But realize, when you shoot for too much, you don't get anything. When you shoot, the Gemara says, right? So if you're shooting, I want to get rid of my temptations, I want to get rid of my desires, I want to get rid of all that stuff, and you're not able to. Why? Because it's not within your capacity to become a tzaddik. And what's going to end up happening is,
You go down.
you go down because you can give up on everything. But if you embrace and recognize who you are and realize that midas habeini, midas kol adam, that every single person has the capacity to win the battle in the area of machshav de, and that's what your job is, and that's fine. And based on this, the Alter Rebbe explains, we started Tanya, that it says in the Gemara, in Masechtas Nida, that before a child comes down into this world, mashbiyim, they make him swear to eat tzaddik, v'al tehi rasha. Be a tzaddik, don't be a rasha. So the obvious question is that this is a redundancy. It's a redundancy. If you're a tzaddik, you're not a rasha. So what does it mean, be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha? So the Rebbe says, but now we understand this. When the neshama comes down, they say to be tzaddik. Try to be a tzaddik. Problem is that most of us can't be tzaddik. So therefore comes along the second part of the shua. Alti rasha, at least don't be a rasha, because that everyone, there's no excuses for it. No, you come up to heaven and say, I didn't make it, I couldn't be a tzaddik. Okay, that's fine. But alti rasha, there's no excuse for being a rasha. Why? Because meir shalta alev, the mind controls the heart, and if you daven properly, you're able to win the battle in the area of mashav d'ramaisa all the time. With this, we've concluded what is the Beinani, and also the idea that the avodah of the Beinani is for every single person. And the avodah of the Beinani is practically in the area of machshav d'ramaisa. Do the right thing. How do you do the right thing? You have Meir Shat Alev, and the Alter Rebbe also says at the beginning of Perek Yudalid, you take some time to think, I'm a Yid, and I would even go on Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem. I'm not going to fall for this temptation, I'm going to do the mitzvahs, I'm not going to do the averus.
Now, if you realize it, that all our life we're struggling, you're already winner.
What?
You're a winner already. If you realize it, all our life is struggling, we're better, struggling, so you're winning the battle.
Most people get bogged down by the struggle. The reason why is because they don't realize that that's the purpose. But we'll be talking about this more in Perek Zayin. In Mirz Hashem, next week we are right in the middle of Perek Yudalid. Next week we're going to finish Perek Yudalid, and we're going to find out there's a second answer to the question of why does it say Tehit Tzaddik Val Tihir Rasha redundancy. Alter Rebbe is going to say that even if you don't have the capacity to be a tzaddik, you still always have to try to be a tzaddik. That's the first answer that Alter Rebbe gave was Tehit Tzaddik. You should try to be a tzaddik, but at least Al Tihir Rasha. That's the main thing. And the Alter Rebbe is going to say no. There's more than that, which is that every single person has to try to be a tzaddik, which raises the question, why? Why? If I can't be a tzaddik, why should I even try to be a tzaddik? And that, Mirz Hashem, we'll discuss next week. When we continue next week, we'll do Mirz Hashem, the second half of Perek Yudalid, and Perek Tezvav, and Perek Tezayin, and Perek Yud Zayin. So we'll do 3.5 bracket next week.
Shalom from Jerusalem. And the week that we are right now in is called the week of Tiferet, because the time that we're right now in.
So, should we start from the beginning again? Yeah, good idea. We get an accelerated beginning because it's already Wednesday, which means we're going to be studying the fourth reading of Parshas Bereshis. So, Adam and Chava had a mitzvah, just one, and they didn't listen, and they got the boot, and that's how the fourth reading opens up. Vayemer Hashem Elikim, the Lord God says, Hein ha'odam haya ka'achad mimenu. Now the human being is changed. He's compromised. He's proverbially speaking like one of us. Ladas tevara. Now he knows shame. Now he knows embarrassment. He knows the difference between good and bad. Be'ata pen yishlach yadei, lest he stretch forth his hand. V'lokar gam me'etz ha'chaim. Now he'll eat not only from the tree of knowledge, but the tree of life too. V'achal. He'll eat, v'chai la'ilo, and then he'll live forever. So much to say about this little verse. It's anything but little, but we're going to focus on the next two verses. Vayishalcheu Hashem Elikim migan Eden. So God sent him away from the Garden of Eden. Why did he send him away? La'avoid es ha'adama, so that he might work the land. Asher lukach misham, that he was taken from there. So the Torah is very explicit in telling us that Adam was sent away. Vayishalchehu. So the Ibn Ezra says, why does it say Vayishalchehu? He sent him. Sounds like being sent on a mission. The Ibn Ezra says that when somebody is sent away, it's not a positive. He's basically thrown out. Like, okay, you can go now. He's sent away. When Rav David Kimchi Rav Dak says similar, he says we talk here about not a mission, not Adam being given a mission, but rather a shiluach, which is of gerush. He's driven away. So it says he was sent away, but even in English sometimes sent away means driven away. All right, so the Torah chooses not to use the word driven, not to use the word vayigoresh. Torah chooses to use the word vayishalcheyu. Then comes the next verse. Verse 24, it says, Vayigoresh esa adam. That the person was driven away. Here it says driven. Vayashkein mikedem legan Eden. He settles or lives in the east area, east of where the Garden of Eden was. Esa kruvim ve'esla tacherev misapeches. So then there's these cherubim, these angels, and there's the rotating blade, which is lishmar es derech etzachayim, which is sure to guard the way to the tree of life. So just as we open the reading by saying God said, lest he eat now from the tree of life and live forever, so that's not going to happen anymore because there's guards. It's protected. He can't get there. So the question is, why in verse 23 does it say Vayishalchehu? And we have Ibn Ezra, and we have Radak telling us that this is being driven away. And then in the next verse it says Vayigoresh. First of all, why does it change tenses? Why does it change words? If it's Vayigoresh, why isn't Vayigoresh both times? But then, of course, you could ask another question. Why do you have to say the same thing twice? It says he was sent away in verse 23. It says he was sent away in verse 24. What happened? What's the difference? So the Ibn Ezra says, Vayigoresh esa adam emphasizes that the Vishalcheo, that he was sent, he was indeed sent on a mission. He was indeed sent to do something. Namely, he was sent la'aved esa adama. He was sent to go and work the land. However, once he was sent away to la'aved esa adama, from that point and onward, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ensured that he could not make his way back into Gan Eden. So being sent out of Gan Eden doesn't prove that he was thrown out of Gan Eden. But when you can't go back in, when the door slams behind you, And then there's kruvim and alata misapechas, these little monsters or demons or angels, and they have a rotating blade. You can't get back in, then you know you got thrown out. Incidentally, the Psad Yigoran says that the kruvim are malachim. And Ibn Ezra says that there's an opinion that it means like young creatures or young looking, which is similar to what Rashi says when we speak about the concept of the kruvim on top of the ark. And he says, as a rule, all of the different angelic or like, I don't know, celestial creatures, they're all, kruvim is just like a